Hey there, vinyl community. Vinyl-Dreamscape here. Thought I would try another video and using my phone primarily because it just seems like it's a better picture and better sound quality when I use my phone, which doesn't make any sense. I have a Apple and it should you would think it would be better, but for now we'll go with this. Thought I'd show some records today, a little bit different from what we've done in the past. Maybe a little bit more orientated to electronic music or avant-garde music. I haven't really gotten into that area. I wasn't sure how I wanted to. There are other people who obviously can do that area better than I can, but try to show some unique pieces maybe that that I haven't seen on the internet. So the first one is a record that I bought a long time ago. Mainly I bought it at the time for the cover, which is just really cool. And I was always, as a kid, I used to watch a lot of the creature feature type stuff, and this film was always a favorite of mine. It's an interesting little movie, Forbidden Planet, and I always, just back, back in the days when the idea of owning a soundtrack to a movie just seemed impossible. Like, who would do that? And I always remembered the film, the soundtrack to this is a series of just a lot of blips and blops and screeches from electronic screeches. And what's interesting about it is it's been said that this is the very first fully electronic soundtrack that anyone ever did. The film was made in 1954 and 56, 54, and there was no soundtrack issued at the time. I guess there was a 7-inch of the main theme to it that might have gotten an issue. It wasn't until 1976 that that the film actually got a soundtrack release, and it was on this little label, Planet Records. And so I was in the store one day and I grabbed it out of curiosity. It's actually a really interesting piece of early electronic music. It's apparently they created their own, the theremin had been used before. They created their own little electronic instrument to make these very unique sounding bleeps and blops, and at the time they wouldn't even, there was some dispute apparently with the musicians union, and they wouldn't even label it as music. They called it tonalities, musical tonalities or something like that, to avoid any legal trouble. And in case you want to see the record label, I know some people like to see that. It's kind of a cool label. And anyway, it's just a little piece of a little anomaly in the collection that I think is actually really, really interesting as far as early electronic music goes. And I found myself with a nice little gem when I bought something just out of curiosity about the the cover of the music. It's a pretty interesting little piece. And we'll flip to something completely different. I'm going to go all over the place here, so hope people don't mind. This is Test Department, and I used to see a lot of this kind of stuff in the shops. Test Department is kind of experimental, avant-garde, industrial music band. A lot of percussion, very, very wild experimentations with sound. This is nice. Comes in a great little box, and comes on 245 RPM discs, and then with it was, so you get the discs, and you got like this packet of like press clippings and this really cool just 45 minutes of music. There's apparently a video released with it, and then all these other little bits and pieces too, which really made the music on it is you know, very experimental, and I wouldn't call this an everyday listen, but when you're in the mood for, you know, an avant-garde recording and you want to hear something different, this is really an intriguing recording. Fascinating music. Like I say, a lot of percussions, pictures of the band and stuff, and just a really excellent package that I stumbled upon at the time for, you know, relatively cheap. And there was a time when you could find this kind of thing pretty easily. Hope there's no images on there that are that are inappropriate. So, and as far as the records go themselves, they sound fantastic. 245 RPM records. As I said, it's probably not music you'd listen to on a regular basis, although I mean there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, it's really interesting experimental music, a good example of mid-period industrial, you know, after the initial blast. Test Department, really cool album. Next is this is like a dollar bin record, but I never hear it get mentioned, and I think it's a really fantastic. Eddie Jobson came from Roxy Music. He's performed with other people. He's performed with Yes. Roxy Music was the one that got me after Brian Eno left Roxy Music. He was the replacement. And eventually, in the 80s, he did this. This is on the Private Music label. He did 2 solo albums. There's another one. I can't remember the name of it. I have heard it. I don't like it. But I think there's some vocals on it. And it's but this is a really that cover kind of says a lot about the music. At the time, I think this was kind of marketed as New Age. I don't think they knew what to do with it, like where it fit in the marketplace in the 1985. So they just didn't know what to do with it, and so it ended up on the Private Music label. This is, I'd say, very closely related to the kind of like Berlin school of krautrock, early synth music. It's actually a really beautiful record. These really icy cold themes that are expanded upon in the music, and it just goes from one to another. It's a sweeping, ice cold, desolate, but beautiful recording. And you can even, the pictures are so 80s, you know, but it's an all digital recording, and there's a lot of reasons. I mean, I come past this quite often in the bins even now, and it's not caught on. You know, the day's going to come when people are going to discover this thing, and it'll get more play than it does now. But I think it's one you can still grab cheap, and it's a real, well, you know, the titles of the songs: Spheres of Influence, Ice Festival, Theme of Secrets, Outer Secrets, Lake Mist. The titles say a lot about what the music sounds like. I think it's a beautiful recording, and one that is worth, if you like synth music, and it's experimental and interesting, this might be something to check out. Along the same lines, really, is you know, you hear a lot of Brian Eno did those, you know, music for airports and did music for films. The third music for films album which is on the Opal label. I think that was Eno's label for a while. He released this, Music for Films 3. And rather than it being a recording of him, and let's see if that's better. He had other people come in. Roger Eno, Brian's on it, Daniel Lanois, Michael Brooks, Harold Budd, John Paul Jones from Led Zeppelin. And these are relatively short pieces of music that all sound like electronic themes that could be used for film. I don't think any of them actually were used in a film. I could be wrong about that. I remember reading about it when I first got it, but I don't think any of them were actually used in film. It's an intriguing, very experimental, but also very beautiful album. I'd say each one of these, there's one on here called Tension Block. That's a really intriguing track. But they're all good, and they all have something to recommend. Some are sweeping and beautiful, some more experimental, and really have a tension built into them. And others are just real basic and pretty. And anyway, it's a record I still think that you can come by pretty cheaply, and you might be surprised by what's on it, and you may enjoy it. So there's that. And then there's another album that I know you can still get. I know it's still in print. This is Rotelius and Hausswolff, and it's on this great little label called Curious Music. And I actually had a chance to speak to the owner of this label one time, and most of the stuff on there is there's a lot of interesting music that he puts out, and he's worked with some really some of the greats in krautrock, and that Rotelius obviously being one of them. This is a much later period. This is a 2017 issue. It's very experimental. Rotelius primarily playing piano and keyboards, and Hausswolff is primarily uses kind of found sounds, tape records, found sounds, and the two of them are kind of put together. And Nordic Light. It's a beautiful record. You hear a lot of there's a lot of water, and there's a lot going on. It might seem very sparse. It is very sparse, but there's a lot going on in this record. It's a really, to me, a really magical, beautiful record, and I think you can still get it, new for I think it's $20-25 or whatever. I could be wrong about that. I remember when I got it, it comes in this really nice packaging, and it's on clear vinyl, which I love clear vinyl. I think that I'm not a big colored vinyl fan, but clear is something that I like. I usually prefer to have black over anything else. But if you're looking for a way of great, there is also inside came a little. It's just the full picture. When you got the original ones, this came like a numbered copy. Came the original 500 of them. So, Curious Music label. There's other music on the label too that people may find intriguing. Some people it may be too new agey sounding, but there's some mixed in there are some really experimental records. This is one of them. This is, to me, the best album on that label. It's an amazing record. beautiful, calming, but there's something in it that goes, it's not just pretty background music. There's something else going on here, and there's an exploration, two artists, two musicians coming together to create something that's more than just the parts of them. And when you combined both these guys together, I think you've got a really, really special record. So grab it while you can. And one other one that I wanted to show, I think everyone, Michael Rother, who people will know from, a series of Harmonia, and he was on some Cluster albums, and he did a series of solo records though, and after he stopped collaborating, or at least a portion of his career when he stopped, this came from 76, and these are the first 3 Michael Rother records that can still be found on YouTube. I know you can find them on YouTube, but in Discogs for relatively, this is very, very much like Noi, Harmonia, a little more exploring maybe, and a little more willing to take some chances because he is on his own. But these are beautiful records, and the same kind of themes that you find with Noi, you'll hear that similar but updated, and really you can hear kind of the way I always kind of thought of it is like you can hear the 1980s coming in a good way. You can hear that willingness to experiment and try new things. I have the first 3 that I found eventually over time in the used bins, and I'd say each one of these is excellent. You also have, if I'm not mistaken, Connie Plunk is on, yes. So and these were all done. These first 3 were all done at his studio, and real nice. This has got a really nice theme. They're all, I would say, upbeat in the best sense of that word. Not just kind of, pretty themes that go nowhere. This is, in some ways, very romantic music, very pretty music, very detailed. So, if you're into krautrock and you're looking for some place to go after you discovered, Cluster and La Dusseldorf, and you're ready for kind of the next step, I would say these 3 Michael Rother albums are a great place to go. So I guess the theme of this was some relatively inexpensive experimental albums that you can find that maybe you'll have a chance to enjoy. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.